Did you know that before colonization, there were no people who called themselves Shona and there was no language by that name? Also, the Shona language, as it is spoken and written today, did not exist. Well, before Cecil John Rhodes and his team settled in modern-day Zimbabwe, there lived many closely related but distinct communities. There were Karangas in the north, Zezurus in the central plateau, Manyikas in the east, Ndaus towards the Mozambican coast, and Korekores towards the north. Each group spoke its own dialect, practiced local customs, and owed allegiance to its chiefs and lineages. And identity was local. A person identified themselves through their clan or mutupo, their territory, their chieftaincy, and their dialect group, and not by a single ethnic name. In addition, there was no political state or institution that united the different dialects and or tribes under the collective name of Shona. Yet despite this diversity, something important connected these communities. They spoke closely related languages. According to linguists, this is called a dialect continuum, which refers to languages that are different enough to signal identity, but similar enough to allow communication. For instance, a Karanga speaker could communicate with a Zezuru speaker, as a Ndau speaker could understand much of the Manyika dialect. Because of this dialect continuum, these groups shared core vocabulary, grammatical structure, ritual language, and ancestral concepts. As such, this linguistic unity existed before colonization, even though it existed without a single name. The word Shona itself did not originate as a proud self-description. Instead, it appears in the early 19th century, mostly used by Nguni-speaking groups during Mfecane as an external label for non-Nguni peoples. It is suggested that the term carried dismissive meanings and was shortened for those who speak differently. And thus when Shona began to be used, it was not a shared identity and it was external. But in the 1890s, everything changed. With the arrival of the British South Africa Company BSIC, colonial administrators faced a challenge: how to govern, tax, educate, and control a population with dozens of dialects and identities. Colonialism required simplicity, and as such, related language groups were merged under single labels for census records, land allocations, labor recruitment, and missionary education. And it was then the Shona name was adopted and institutionalized, and the land housing these tribes came to be known as Mashonaland. From this moment, therefore, Shona became administratively real, even though it was not yet culturally internalized. 1931 became the turning point for Shona unification. At that time, missionaries and schools were struggling to teach reading and writing across multiple dialects, and linguist Clement Doak was commissioned to address that. In that same year, he produced a landmark report, The Unification of the Shona Dialects. His work helped to classify related dialects as the Shona language and established a single written form for schooling, Bible translation, and publishing. In his work, though, he favored the Zezuru dialect and used some of the Karanga dialect, with Ndau, Manyika, and Korekore receiving limited recognition in the standardization of Shona. By the mid-20th century, urbanization had brought different dialect speakers together, and schools were teaching a common language. Rising nationalist movements also required a shared identity, and thus Shona shifted from being an administrative category to being a self-claimed identity. By 1980, Shona had become an identity with sub-identities Korekore, Manyika, Zezuru, Ndau, and Karanga existing within the broader collective. Now, with this information in mind, what do you think was lost and what was gained when diverse Shona identities were brought under one name? 2. If closely related Nguni languages could remain distinct, should Karanga, Zezuru, Manyika, Ndau, and Korekore have been allowed the same space? I would love to hear your thoughts and please share them in the comment section below. Also, do check out other interesting moments from Zimbabwean history on this channel, and if you like anything, please don't forget to leave a like, a share, a comment, or a subscription. For the meantime, goodbye and till next week.